Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I make videos about witchcraft, paganism, spirituality, demonology, occultism, and other related topics. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, feel free to hit subscribe. Now this is my first time filming in weeks. I kind of took a break for the holidays, just for my mental health and to do other things that I enjoy and to spend time with people I care about. So hello, I'm back. And I'm excited to make some more videos because I've come up with a lot of ideas during my little hiatus. So today I'm going to be showing you all my favorite books from 2021 and why, and specifically witchcraft and occult magic books. So let's get right into it. Alright, so my first one, and by the way, this isn't in any particular order of like the time I read these books during the year, if that makes sense, like January, February, no. I don't remember, I wasn't super organized with my reading. I just kind of read a lot of books after a reading slump in 2020 because I was kind of busy. But yeah, anyway, let's get started. So my first one is The Magic of Marie Laveau by Denise Alvarado. I think this book is valuable for any practitioner of any spiritual practice. And this is more of a historical book. It really explores the life of Marie Laveau. And she is such an inspirational person that reading about her really inspired me in so many ways. She was so charitable. She was such a powerful woman during her time. And she was just such an incredible person that I'd really recommend picking this book up. It will inspire you. It is fascinating. Reading about the history, reading about Marie Laveau's life, reading about New Orleans, reading about, New Orleans voodoo, and the historical sort of perspective this book provides from the perspective of someone who was born and raised in Louisiana in this specific culture. I think it was really fascinating, and I think it was just such a great look into Marie Laveau's life and a great look into New Orleans voodoo. And I love this book, 5 stars. Now, next one is Weaving Fate. I actually finished this like a week ago or probably a few days ago, and I really, really loved it. You can see I've tabbed it like so much. It's one of my more annotated books. There's so many quotes in here that spoke to me. It really made me rethink the way I was living my life, about how I was letting things stagnate. And the author uses the analogy of train tracks, where you don't have to go on like the specific train tracks that society has put out for you, that you can make your own path and weave your own fate, per se. And it has so many, all these green tabs are things to try, like activities, rituals, stuff like that. So there's a lot of things to try with this book. The yellow tabs are quotes I like or important bits of information. And I think this book is amazing. I'd recommend it to any magical practitioner as well. Another 5-star read. I love this. I love Aidan Wachter. This is my first Aidan Wachter book that I've read so far. So I'm really excited to read his other 2 books as well. Next book, Psychic Witch by Matt Oren. Now this book in particular, I started in 2020. I got it for Christmas in 2020, and then it kind of went into the new year. But I've been working through the exercises in this book after reading through it for all of 2021, so of course I had to include it. This is one of my all-time favorite witchcraft books. I love the way it's set up with the exercises. I think that if you're really looking for almost like a course, a really hands-on book where you actually do rather than just read, this book is perfect. It's really helped with my visualization skills. It's really helped with a lot of the psychic abilities that we might not know how to develop or work through, and this book is a great guide to that. I think this is, again, helpful for any magical practitioner, and I think this book is great for all levels of practitioners, beginner, intermediate, advanced. And really, I could say this for all of these, although I would say Weaving Fate would be more intermediate. Oops, my bookmark fell out. Intermediate or advanced. Magic of Marie Laveau, anyone can read. And, I mean, you can read intermediate or advanced books if you're a beginner, but, you know, in terms of the practices in the book, this book is good for all levels as well. Next, we have The Witch's Path by Thorn Mooney, which is also a relatively recent read. There's a book review for it up on my blog and kind of a excerpt of it on my Instagram, but of course there's character limits for the caption. So the full book review is up on my blog. Now, I'm still working through the exercises in this book, but reading through it, it is definitely a book that I feel like I'm going to read again in the future. It is a book designed to help you level up your existing practice. So again, more of an intermediate advanced book. I think that this book is wonderful, just wonderful, that's it, that's all I have to say. The advice that it's almost like, it feels like a more experienced practitioner is sitting down, grabbing a coffee with you and giving you advice. And it's just so wonderful. The exercises are great as well. I think these are really good in terms of getting yourself out of a rut and also doing some introspection and understanding yourself better as a practitioner. I really loved The Witch's Path by Thorn Mooney. So far, all of these are 5-star reads for me. Next is Energy Magic of the Vampire by Dawn Webb. Now this is not a witchcraft book. This is like a energy vampire magic. Well, you saw the title. So Dawn Webb was a high priest at the Temple of Set, and so a lot of the stuff in this book is very Temple of Set-esque. I really loved his writing. I thought he was witty. He added a lot of humor. He has a very unique writing style that I think makes the book really entertaining. And while vampiric magic, well, that might be surprising to some of you because of my aesthetic, but vampiric magic isn't really something that calls to me, but I still think that really any magical practitioner could get something out of this book. Simply, even if it's just the ideas that are in here. This is also one that I've annotated a lot, although I've dog-eared the important pages because I didn't have tabs. So I'm probably going to go back and add in my tabs and re-annotate a little bit because I liked it a lot. And I really think this book is a valuable one, and I really like that he has, in a certain section of the book, he has chapters dedicated to different occultists and exploring their sort of theories and how we can apply them to our practice and stuff like that. And I just think this is a really good book. And also, he really goes through and recommends a lot of books. Like this whole thing, I wrote down books to read, and all of these were in the book and more. There's a whole like suggested reading section. So I really like this book. I quite enjoyed it. Next book is Hekate, Goddess of Witches by Courtney Weber. I have a review of this book up on my channel, so I'll put it up here. And this book actually really got me back into Hekate work. So I, a couple years ago, sort of worked with Hekate a little bit, but it didn't really work out. I mean, she kind of dipped for a couple years, and then I picked up this book at a Barnes & Noble, and I was like, this looks interesting, and I've always felt drawn to Hekate anyway. So I read it, and it really kick-started this second half of my journey with Hekate, if that makes sense. So it really kick-started me working with her again, and I'm really grateful to the author for writing such a wonderful book that allowed me to do that. It has a lot of historical stuff. I love that the author seamlessly blends like historical information and historical context that, you know, you can cross-reference with primary sources and find that, you know, I mean, I found that the information in this book was correct based on looking at primary sources, as well as a more modern approach, a more modern witchcraft approach to working with Hekate. I think that it was a very well balanced read, and it really reflects the way I like to, the way my practice works is that I kind of have a combination of reconstructionist or, you know, kind of looking at those primary sources and the cultural context, but also applying that to a modern time and to a more modern way of working with Hekate because we don't live in ancient Greece anymore. Times have changed. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and I'd really recommend it if you're interested in Hekate. Our next book is The Crooked Path by Keldon, an introduction to traditional witchcraft. Now, I really liked this book. Honestly, I finished it a while ago, so it's not quite as fresh in my mind. But I do remember enjoying this book. It's a very good, solid read. I think also, you could read this if you're a beginner, especially if you're a beginner wanting to get into traditional witchcraft. I think this is a good book to start with before you get into the other stuff by like Gemma Gary and all the other, more niche traditional witchcraft books. I think this is a good book for that. I think this is also a good general witchcraft book, even if you're not a traditional witch. I generally enjoyed this book. Next, The Horned God of the Witches by Jason Mankey, one of my favorites. I loved this book. I think he did a wonderful job of breaking down the history of these different gods and their cultural context, but especially their history with Cernunnos and Pan and, a couple of others, but while also tying them into this greater horned god archetype. I loved the rituals in this book as well. I just think this is a really great read, really solid. I can tell that a lot of work went into this book and it really paid off. I also love the artwork by Laura Tempest-Zakroff on the cover. I think she is just so talented. Not just talented, art is something that you hone with a lot of hard work, and I just love her art. I think she's very good at what she does. But anyway, that's besides the point. I think that this book was a wonderful read, especially if you're like me and you work with a horned god. I work with Cernunnos. Maybe you work with Pan or even the devil or some other horned god or goddess, because this book talks about that as well. And I just think that this is a wonderful book to have in your collection. I think it's just so fascinating. I loved it. Next is The Book of Lilith. This is an older release, so let me see when this was released. So this was originally published in 1986, and I think this is a great read. It talks about the Talmud and what the Talmud says about Lilith. It talks about just a lot of the stories behind her. It also talks about her in a psychological context as well, because this author is a psychologist, I believe. Yeah, a clinical psychologist. So I thought this was an interesting approach to Lilith. The next book I read in 2021. I think I read this in 2021. I know it was published in 2020, but I picked it up at a Barnes & Noble, and it is Year of the Witch by Temperance Alden. Now, I overall enjoyed this book. I really like picking it up and reading each section on like each sort of Sabbath or whatever, whenever each Sabbath happens, but that's not the point of the book. The point of the book is building your own Wheel of the Year, which I think is a really cool concept, and I think that it's something that we should do more, because we always talk about personalizing our practice, but then it's like, you don't celebrate every single, Sabbath in the Wheel of the Year. Whereas I think this book does a really good job of kind of teaching you how to take what resonates in terms of the established Wheel of the Year, but also make it work for you, for your climate, for your practice and everything, and kind of goes through how to structure your Wheel of the Year. So I think this is a good book. My last one is The Spiral Dance by Starhawk. I love this book. I really do. I think that these sort of older witchcraft books are really important to read. I think that this book is really inspiring. And I don't know why, but whenever I read it, I just feel inspired in my practice. So I do like to pick this book up when I'm in a rut, because there's such passion in the prose, for the practice. It's not just a how-to. It almost feels like an homage to witchcraft. And I think that's really beautiful. And I think this book is really, really beautiful. Also, this is the 20th anniversary edition, so the author went through and corrected herself in some parts. She went through and added some things in the notes, and I think that was really cool as well to read, and I just think that this was a wonderful book and is one of my favorites. So that is all I have for you today. So these are all my favorite witchcraft books from 2021. Like I said earlier in this video, 2020 was kind of a reading slump year for me. So it was really nice to get back into reading in 2021, both with witchcraft and occult books and with fiction books. I also have a whole new TikTok account dedicated just to books and like reading, and that's where I kind of talk about more of my fiction books that I like and non-witchcraft books. So if you're interested in that, I'll put the username or the link to it down below, but you don't have to. It's just, you know, cute little account that I made. Anyway, yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you have read any of these books, let me know your thoughts below. Let me know what your favorite witchcraft and occult books of 2021 were. I'm very interested to hear. And yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful day, evening, whatever, whenever you're watching this, and I love you all. Blessed be. Bye.